There's a pair of new head coaches in the SEC West. Mike Elko at Texas A&M and Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. Guys, we'll start in College Station. And what a wild sequence of events to get to this point it was. The rumors began, of course, on Saturday, where it was Ryan Day's a candidate, Dabo Sweeney's a candidate. Heck, I thought I was a candidate. Name after name after name emerging. Then we go into late Saturday, and we all thought that Mark Stoops was headed from Kentucky to Texas A&M. Then we saw the power of boosters, which are fans with influence, fans with deep pockets, right? And I guess that after you ask those guys to shell out or fork out, what was it, $75 million to get the old guy out of there, you have to think that they're going to have opinions on who you hire, right? They're going to have some influence on those decisions as well. So it was Mark Stoops, then it wasn't Mark Stoops, then finally we hear and we get the word Mike Elko coming over from Duke, the next head coach in College Station. You know, guys, it's wild. I know it's a reality, right? It's a reality, especially in today's day and age of college football with NIL and collectives. And again, you've got boosters that are forking out real money to hire coaches, fire coaches, whatever it might be. And this is just me speculating, but I have to believe that Mark Stoops was going to be the next head coach at Texas A&M. Like, that had to be a thing. And then the backlash that came because of that, which I don't really understand. Like, I think Mark Stoops, I think things worked out how they were supposed to, and I'll get into that more in a second, but I think Mark Stoops would have been a good fit there. Like, guys, we're talking about a guy who went into Kentucky, a place that they care more about basketball than football. Went into Lexington, went to Kentucky, and won 10 games as Kentucky's head football coach. What I think Mark Stoops could have done with the resources in College Station, with the NIL backing in College Station, right? We heard this from Mark Stoops earlier in the season when he talked about, hey, guys, you want us to beat Georgia? You want us to compete with them? We need more good players. We need more funding. We need more NIL support. That's something he wouldn't have had to worry about in College Station. So I think the pushback from Aggie fans, boosters, whoever it was, I think it was a little bit misguided. I think it was a little bit weird. I think Texas A&M to a degree was too focused on, we got to get the name right. It's got to be a name that makes a splash and a name that makes sense. And so that all crumbled. That all fell apart. I will say, though, I'm not going to bring the hammer down too hard on Texas A&M because, guys, I think this is somewhat the realities of what is coaching searches in 2023. What is coaching searches in the modern day and age of college football, where it's like you got agents that are putting things out there and they're plotting names against each other and they're trying to get their specific client a raise wherever they are, the best possible deal. And so you're going to have a lot of stuff come out. A lot of people throwing you-know-what at a wall and hoping it sticks. But isn't it funny how when the dust settles, what's meant to be will happen, both in life and in this scenario? What's meant to be will happen. And so we come back to Mike Elko. You know, if you weren't going to get the Dan Lannings of the world or the Ryan Days or some of these really big splash hires that were probably unrealistic from the jump, Mike Elko is a hire that makes too much sense, almost. It makes so much sense, right? And so it's kind of ironic that Texas A&M ends back at this place. Guys, I mentioned what Mark Stoops did at Kentucky. Even more impressive than winning big at Kentucky, winning big at Duke, a place that does not win big. I mean, David Cutcliffe had some success, and of course, we know what Steve Spurrier did. But that, you think about what Steve Spurrier did at Duke, guys. I'm not saying Mike Elko is going to be the next Steve Spurrier in the SEC, but you think about what Spurrier did at Duke. And, that's been looked back on forever. Like, God, the greatness of Steve Spurrier. I mean, this guy won at Duke, right? So it's very difficult to win at Duke. Led Duke to a 9-win season in 2022. They won the Military Bowl that year, 5-3 in the ACC. And then this year, yes, Duke went 7-5, but they were a very good football team. Would have been better, I think, record-wise, had Riley Leonard not suffered injury. Obviously, smacked Clemson out the gate to open the season. And then, guys, you go back to the obvious ties in College Station. Was the Texas A&M defensive coordinator back in 2018 to 2021. So I think this hire makes a lot of sense. I think he's going to bring a toughness to College Station. You know, I think guys that are Jimbo Fisher, and I'm not trying to sound like a boomer here. I think there was too much glitz and glamour and like kind of showboating. This just like prima donna feel in College Station. You know, you had Texas A&M guys wearing shades to SEC media days. We're blocking out the haters. Like, it just, I don't know, man. It felt fabricated. The culture that Jimbo would preach, it felt fabricated. It felt phony. I think what Mike Elko is going to bring is going to be a chip on the shoulder, a toughness. You know, I heard Billy Lucci talking this morning about this over at Texags. Like, and he mentioned this. Texas A&M, they seem to fare better when they're doubted. They seem to fare better when there's this chip on this shoulder, when there's this edge about them. I think Mike Elko is going to bring that edge back to College Station. Guys, I would grade the hire. When you talk about grading hires, I would grade this hire an A-. I think it's a really good hire. I mean, the only thing that maybe I would hold against him, maybe he isn't that splash hire, but I mean, I think it's a really good hire, guys. I think it's a great hire for Texas A&M. Now, hey, outside of being a DC at Texas A&M, you know, he's never been a head coach. Never been a head coach at the SEC level. But that being said, he understands College Station. He understands Aggie fans. He understands the 12th man. He gets that. So I think a really good hire. I think a fantastic hire for A&M. I would grade it an A-. And I think the right guy to lead Texas A&M into this new era of the SEC, which, of course, coming next year with Texas and Oklahoma joining the league. Now, in Starkville, Mississippi State hiring Jeff Lebby, which if you followed SEC football long enough and really just college football as a whole, you're probably going to recognize this name. I'm surprised it took this long for him to get a head coaching spot, right? A guy that bounced around, was a part of coaching those great offenses over at Baylor during the Art Briles days. And I know Art Briles all field stuff, but I mean, just talking ball here, the guy knows offense, right? He's renowned in the college ball circles as an offensive guru, if you will. Spent time in the state of Mississippi at Ole Miss back in 2020 to 2021. Has been at Oklahoma the last couple of years as their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. I like the hire I almost said Ole Miss. I like the hire for Mississippi State in regards to, I think, getting back to that fun, explosive offensive style. You know, I will say, though, from folks I've talked to off the record, both national folks and Mississippi State folks, there is some skepticism, I think, when it comes to Lebby, a guy who's never been a head coach before. I mean, I think anytime you go that route, right? Anytime you go the route of he's never been a head coach, there's a lot of growing pains there, guys. There's a lot of growing pains in the sense of, okay, can he hire competent coordinators? Can he be a CEO? How does he handle NIL? How does he handle recruiting? Especially at a place like Mississippi State where the challenge is so great. I think this is a hire similar to what South Carolina is going through right now from the standpoint of this is a hire where, I like the roll of the dice. I do. But a school like South Carolina, a school like Mississippi State, you figure out, okay, is rolling the dice the best way to operate? Or is this a job where you have to go get a guy that is a proven head coach, more of a proven commodity to win at the level the fan base wants to get to? What type of job is this? So, you know, I think Lebby obviously brings that offensive prowess with him. I think that's great for State, right? They got to get back to explosiveness on offense, scoring points. You feel like the defense is always going to be there, but what was going on with Zach Arnett was not working. And I've talked about that already, guys. I think he was put in a really, really difficult situation. But I would grade this hire for Mississippi State. I'd grade it at a C+. I like Lebby from the offensive standpoint. I just have a lot of questions about, okay, never been a head coach before. Never been a head coach before at a job that is really, really, really difficult. And this grade could actually go up, guys, in my mind, if he hires elite coordinators, right? Goes out and gets some big time names, or surrounds himself with an elite staff. But I think a good out of the box hire, roll the dice, a guy in Jeff Lebby that he was going to get a head coaching job at some point. So good on Mississippi State for snagging him up. And, we'll see. It's a really difficult, it's a tall task in Starkville. But I think a guy in Lebby that can bring in a fun, creative, explosive offense, that's where you have to start. That's where you have to start because, of course, guys, as we know, the game is won and lost on the offensive side of the football. So for Mike Elko at A&M, I go A-. Jeff Lebby in Starkville, I go C+. Going to be really interesting to see how their two careers play out at each of their respective schools.